Good morning, afternoon, and evening, and greetings, and welcome to yet another episode of HassanSpeaks. Today, we are thrilled to welcome Raida Al Lamki, an internationally experienced executive and founder of Taghyeer Consulting, a firm dedicated to empowering individuals and organizations to embrace change. Raida's career spans multiple continents and industries, from free zones to IT and airlines. And she's also a certified brain-based and red team coach with a deep focus on neuroscience, emotional intelligence, and team dynamics. As an advocate for women's empowerment and expert in navigating complex transitions, Raida is here to share invaluable insights on how coaching can be a powerful tool for growth and transformation. We will be talking about coaching, we will be talking about growth, and we'll be talking about how it impacts businesses to have the right coach by their sides. Welcome, Raida, to HassanSpeaks, and we are honored to have you here, and I'm honored to be hosting a talk with you.
Thank you very much, Hassan. Thank you for having me, and I'm very excited to have this talk. It's really nice to be able to share some information with individuals and organizations as well.
Wonderful. We share the same experience and wishes as well. Raida, now you've had an incredibly international and varied background. So let's jump right in, right? From growing up across multiple countries to holding executive roles in various entities in multiple sectors, also, your life has been a story of, rather, I would call it a change. And this is what I'm really interested in. I mean, can you share how these experiences have shaped you and your approach to coaching individuals or entities that you're involved with?
So yes, Hassan, I was fortunate to have the chance to change schools every 2 to 3 years and change countries and cultures and careers as well. And that's how I stepped into coaching eventually. With change and changing countries as well, I felt that what shaped me is actually understanding other people's perception and appreciating different perspectives. Being an individual who had the chance to see different cultures, it gave me the understanding to connect with people from different cultures, understanding where they're coming from, and as well knowing how to connect with people.
Interesting. So what kind of role, perhaps, I mean, because I'm very interested in this particular space, right? Did you have to really get into the aspects of human psychology in order to do that? I mean, how did it blossom into you that this is what I want to
Coaching?
do? Yeah.
So when you encounter change so much, a lot of people think that change is a challenge. To me, change is more of a learning experience. So the more you learn, you're more able to adapt and change quickly.
That's very interesting how you put it.
Yeah, change is not really about disruption, as many organizations think that we need to disrupt the industry. I think change is more of learning. When you know more and have more knowledge, you'll be able to grow and thrive.
And this is in the context of organizations, or are you talking about from an individual's perspective?
Let me tell you, it's in the context of both, because people run organizations. So when
That's
you
very true.
have, as a person, I would do that as an individual. But when you're running or when you are leading multiple individuals within an organizations with different backgrounds, I think understanding them and learning more about them and the industry gives the organization a chance to grow.
It's interesting you put it that way. But many would argue that with so much transition or so many transitions and so much change, it could be unhealthy, could be counterintuitive, perhaps. So let us start with one key aspect over here is with so many transitions now in terms of what you have been through also in your life. Yeah? What were some of the most defining moments in terms of what you learned early on, and also about adapting and thriving through change and towards change? And you spoke about adaptability, and you spoke about also change. So how do these two connect in terms of your learning experience?
I think with coaching, when we coach as coaches, you need to navigate through the other person's thoughts. So when you are in an industry, you need to navigate through your customers' needs, or what you believe would be the next, let's say, need within the market, which will lead into a disruption, which will lead into innovation. Many, let's say, writers first had to read many books to become a writer. And
Right.
a lot of innovations that came through, they happened gradually. And they happened through learning first. When I learn and I understand, I'm able to give more. I'm not sure if I answered that question.
No, I think you're heading to the right direction, um, and I think where I also want you to shed a little bit of light is in your area of expertise or in any area of expertise. The usual understanding is that if you belong or you're expert of a certain sector, you're just there. And let's say if a parallel sector opens up, your expertise cannot be replicated or may not be, let's say, um, in a state of applicability to the other sector, right? So you're very narrowed to that particular area of expertise and you cannot move. But in your case, you have worked in various sectors, airlines and IT, and then free zones.
Yeah.
How did that happen? How did working in these areas also, I would say, impact your approach to coaching, and in an environment that is complex and also fast paced? So, number one, how did you get there, and how do you see coaching as a common denominator across different sectors? And then,
Okay.
how did you get there?
Well, uh, as I mentioned earlier, I got a chance to change schools every 3 or 4 years. We're talking about school system. We're talking about the culture. We're talking about different languages
So it
at
came
times.
naturally.
So when I did enter a new organization or industry or country, what I think the common denominator in all is the fact that I was excited about it, inquisitive to learn more, because I knew I didn't know anything about it. When you try and learn something, it's like children. They're easier to adapt and change and grow, and they grow
Sure.
faster because that muscle is still very easy to change. So for me, whenever I entered a new industry, I didn't have any background about it. So I would have to learn faster. I needed to connect with my peers who know better than me. I needed to network more with people within the organization, have support, and as well, if I was lucky, to probably have some advice or mentoring within that industry or organization.
Now, you mentioned the muscle in kids, right?
Yeah.
How much of it, if you were to give a weightage, is the mental approach to adaptation versus the muscle that you speak about in metaphorically in this instance, for example, with the kids? Because children are also very open to change. They're curious about new phenomena, new things, and hence they're open to learning. So if you were to give a weightage, saying how much of it is your mind and your approach, and how much is it your ability, or let's say the phase of age you are in, or the career, your career phase you're in?
Honestly, it depends on different individuals.
Because what I'm trying to get to is how much is behavioral and how much is scientific, in your best of knowledge.
I would actually rate them equally. One, because as children, we don't have a perception about something. We don't know what failure is, and we have not set certain habits that are consistent.
Correct.
Now, with science, what it taught us that we can actually create that with adults and create neuroplasticity, which means that you can, as well as an adult, adapt quickly, but you need to have that open mind and you have that growth mindset. Whereas coaches, we come in to assist an individual who probably doesn't have that in them, or probably has a bad experience about a certain thing that they've been through, whether it is career, whether it is personal. So as much as some children might come across at a young age are, more risk takers, with time this can get less depending on how they have experienced life. And you can have it the other way around. But now as coaches, we come in to help you whether you are in any side of that spectrum. So does science help? Definitely it does help. And that's why when we coach individuals, and every time you will see me say that people are different, because as much as, research has shown that, we all have different fingerprints, we all have different minds.
Correct.
And when you coach, you will have to navigate through that person's mind to understand where are they coming from, where are those limiting beliefs, what are their thoughts that drives, the emotions or vice versa, and then leads to the actions. Let me tell you, when I first started coaching from a science perspective, I remember what I was told is that as a coach, what we should focus on is not the coachee's goal. It's their habits. Eventually, their habits are the ones that will govern their objectives, their goals. And it was something that I was surprised. I thought, okay, as a coach, I'm supposed to help my coachee get to their results or their goals. But I was probably put behind a little bit when I was told that, no, what you should focus is on change of behavior and habit.
That's very interesting. I mean, it's the gradual steps that you look into that would lead the person to achieve his goals. But it's not, you're not hand-holding the person to the goal. You're just creating an environment for him that would help him get there.
And create a new habit as well.
And that's an interesting perspective. I never thought of it that way, but it totally makes sense. I mean, it's like you become an enabler. You're not walking the journey, but you provide him the car to drive from point A to point B. But it's not you driving the car; it's him driving the car.
Him driving
or
the
her
car,
driving
and
the
probably as well for him to be aware of his self. As coaching, we always want, or we would like to empower the person to go within, to understand where they're coming from, in order to come up with, the insights or the things that are holding them back.
I'm fascinated, must say that. Talking about your startup or your entity, your company, Taghyeer Consulting, and your profession as coaching, when did you realize that this was your calling?
Well, I've changed a lot throughout my life. But then I had to take a career break where after having an extensive career in, you know, sales and in marketing and business development and in strategy, I thought, okay, now it's time that I go back. But I didn't know what to. So I thought, you know what, since I love knowledge and I love information, I can actually just go and do my PhD. And so I speak to my professor here in Dubai and say, you know what, I want to do my PhD, but I'm not really sure what I want to do it in. But I would like to solve an ongoing problem. Since PhD is research based, and then at the same time you give back to the industry. Luckily, there was a project where we had around 16 scholars researching the successful companies within the UAE. And the book is called Corporate Success Stories Within the UAE. And I was very lucky to research a company, NAFCO, which then I didn't even know who NAFCO was, to be honest. And they are a security company where they've done the Louvre and the Burj Khalifa and Atlantis. And knowing that this is the company I would research, I was thinking, I hope I am the right candidate for this huge company. But again, taking that approach of learning more, trying to get to understand where this company is coming from, understand the people working within that organization, and connecting as well with them, it boiled down, to be honest, to leadership. Because he started with 15 employees, which now led to 15,000 employees.
Great success story.
And having to see how he navigated through, I thought to myself, why him? You know, what makes him that successful or unique? And that's when I came through the Maxwell leadership.
Okay.
Because I believed that it is the leader that drives organizations and drive businesses. And after doing that, I thought, okay, fair enough. It's coaching. You need to ask certain questions, but why? Why are we asking these questions? And what is the main objective? And that's when I went through the brain-based coaching, which is the neuroscience and the research behind it and the science behind coaching an individual and how important it is, and the difference as well between coaching and therapy or a psychologist, difference between coaching and, let's say, consultants as well.
Right. Or training or so, yeah.
Or
right.
training or whatever. So this just made me dive into it more, into coaching, where then it went into, okay, fine, now I have this and I can help individuals. But then while you're coaching, you go through people who have different challenges and different needs. And then I came across the red teaming, where people are not really focused on well-being. They might be fine, but they need to make decisions quicker, stress test their plans. And so I think my journey going through coaching is the same journey of any business. Because as you learn, you will start wondering, okay, so I fixed this customer need. Learning more, you will want to go, so what's next? What next can I help or serve my customers with?
So let's take a step back. I mean, you're speaking really highly of the practice of coaching and the industry. But run us through, why do we need coaching? So why would I, or anyone, let's say, need coaching? Because that's not the first thing on our mind, right, usually. So why coaching? I mean, why would I go for that?
Well, I think people would understand coaching once they have a session. it's not that you cannot get to where you want to go or achieve your goals without coaching, but coaching would give it to you in less time. So if it's going to take you, I don't know, 1 year, it's going to take you, let's say, a few months
Just like
to
fast
get
tracking.
fast tracking. And at the same time, it would make you aware of the biases that you have. So probably if you have a certain bias about something, when you are with a coach, they might be able to navigate through your thinking or your limited beliefs about yourselves, or if you have some imposter syndrome. So I think coaching actually stemmed as well from sports. That's how coaching actually came through. And because when you're with a coach, they would never tell you, so, how did you do it? Or why did you do this? They would always ask you, so what made this particular pitch stronger than the previous, or what can make it better? This way, you're not really using your ego as well, and you're not using your previous experience. You're going back to your subconscious to see what can you do better. Now, some people, you might say, okay, fine, why not consulting? Why coaching? Because a lot of companies would say, okay, I'm not going to hire a coach, I'll bring a consultant. Now, from a coaching perspective, what we see is a consultant would tell you what to do. But a coach would actually get the answers from you, because nobody knows you more than yourself. No
Well
matter
said.
how you think a consultant would know you or know your business or understand your customers and clients, nobody knows that customer or the challenges within the organizations more than the organization itself. And, they say knowledge is power, but knowledge about self is empowerment. And I think as coaches, what we try to do is empower organizations and make sure that they are able to make that change. The other thing is, research shows you can't really tell somebody what to do. I mean, you might get the buy-in of the leadership or the senior management, but then the organization is more than that. You have a lot of people serving frontliners. And I think with coaching, and when you coach people and understand them, and they come up with the solutions, they are more likely to stick to it.
It's interesting because I've been listening to you and even mapping it in my mind, and I know that you have there's coaching, and then you have further specialization in terms of using neuro leadership as a concept in coaching. So I think, how would you say that how can you break down, for example, these neuroscience-based approach to coaching, and how does it help navigate change throughout and help you make better decisions? How did neuroscience help with that, or neuro leadership?
See, when we talk about research, it's one thing that you go through things as an organization, but when you're more aware as a leader of things that are, or let's say as a coach, when I am coaching somebody and using different techniques, going back to as well change, you will need to apply something called like a situational leadership, which means in the academic term that you become the leader depending on the situation.
Yeah, on what is needed at
What is
need
needed.
of the hour.
If you're needed to be a trainer at that time, you need to be a mentor at that time, or you need to, let's say, manage them at the time. So when it comes to the neuroscience of it and understanding the person or what they are going through, it is easier to know what tool you could use at that time. And at the same time, when you're using science and having some knowledge or awareness, it helps you to coach better because you understand how the human brain functions. So you know how to put the coachee at ease. Okay, the first. So we have something called like clearing the space to make sure that they are centered, whether or using some mindfulness techniques before a coaching session, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to work with is the front side of the brain, which is the prefrontal cortex, which is only 7% of the whole brain, and is very, very lazy to work because most of the things that we do on a daily basis is routine work. So we need to make sure that the person is present and that the person is able to give you the best that they can, and making sure that they're not too excited or not too sad. As they say, don't make promises when you're too happy. That goes, very true with coaching. I need to make sure that the person is in the right state to be able to give me the best results. So this is where I think the science of it that helps me coach from a scientific point of view. And when can I plant in questions that would trigger insights from the coachee, and as well educate them on things that they are more able to accept than just theories. People are more able to accept facts.
Correct.
And research and
something
science.
Something that's relatable, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Now, I'm thinking while you're speaking, because it's a very deep topic. Totally get that. So you're using neuroscience and neuroleadership as a concept to instill, let's say, positive habits into your clientele, right? And those habits then become the vehicle that they travel upon towards their goal, right? Now, it's one thing to be active, let's say from a client perspective. If I was your client, I'm active while I'm receiving the coaching from you. But then there comes a point where you move out of the picture, right? So how do you ensure that your clientele, these habits or this habitual installation into your clientele is a sustainable one? So it continues beyond even a start and a stop. What's your approach there?
So you see, when we first had the question, and I told you that we really do not focus on your end results. Yeah. What we focus is on your habits, because your habits are the ones that are going to be sustainable.
Correct.
It's a way of moving forward. And once that connection in your brain happens, while we're doing coaching, from a brain-based perspective, we make sure we capture that moment and to make sure that it's ingrained within you. And then keep going until you reach to what you aspire to do. But now, after you have created a habit to reach that goal, this habit will help you, or this new behavior will help you to reach your other goals, because it's already a way of thinking, let's say, a way of getting through your objectives and your goals. It's not really what we tell you to do. And now even research shows that when the thought comes from within you, you're more likely to stick to it. So he would likely stick to it because he was not told to do it in a certain way. He came up with this solution. It's like people when they go to all these motivational, trainings, and you are very motivated. But this didn't come within. It did not come from your thoughts or from your subconscious and what, triggers you. Because at the end of the day, there are two things that would trigger us. whether it's something that scares us emotionally or makes us very happy.
Yeah.
You know,
Either
people
scaring or
people
exciting.
change. Yeah, people change depending on that. But the change actually comes. It comes from within, and the only way it can come from within, if you create your pathway of change, you're creating your plan. Even if you do have a mentor, which I remember saying this, and there's a lot of debate. You know, a mentor would take you to where they've been. A coach will take you to a place where it's only you that needs to be there, and the way you know best, and the way you know how to. And because you've created that plan for yourself, it's easier to stick to. And it's research based. I mean, it's not something that we say, oh, because I've done that. But research has shown, even with your children, you can't just tell them, you know, just go and do that. They won't. What they do is they like to feel that they're in charge. And your brain likes to feel that it's in charge of the decisions. And that's how it does become more sustainable, because it's not something that you're taking from the outside, but it's something that you're creating from the inside that produces these new connections within your brain. And once that is there, then it's very hard to break. Like they say, bad habits are very hard to break. And they are there and they're ingrained in your brain. The only way you can do that is having new habits to replace. You can't break that.
It's like cultivation of growth mindset and your confidence in it, because you're convinced, and the convincing power comes from internal you.
It's a creation.
Yeah.
You've created it. And it's always easy when you've
So there's a high
created it.
conviction in that.
Yes.
Then yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. This is well, my mind is going now in many different directions,
Yes.
but it keeps going down deeper.
Yeah.
What is the importance now? This is one of the subjects. So whenever we speak about coaching, we speak about leadership and development and self-growth, we also touch base upon emotional intelligence, right? So in terms of emotional intelligence, how important is emotional intelligence to this approach, number one? And then there's something called emotional intelligence regulation, right? So you regulate emotional intelligence. One is to have it, but then to even regulate it, right? How important it is, run us through in terms of what it entails and its importance and significance to coaching and to your clientele as a whole, for example.
Okay. I think as a leader, it's very, very important that you have some sort of emotional intelligence to be able to connect with people, to be able to let people lead and follow that vision of the company. For a leader to have emotional intelligence is something that can be taught, as research says, and it comes from being vulnerable, from being empathetic, understanding where the other person is coming from or why. To regulate it, I think practicing different things like meditation, mindfulness, because we all go through stress. We all go through, that emotional. Before coming to this, podcast, I was saying, okay, I need a minute to just unwind,
Right.
because you do need that. And you can't fill anybody's glass if yours is empty. So as a leader, he does need that time to unwind, or a time where he can regulate his emotions, to understand, the emotions of his employees or his subordinates. Or
Right.
So this is how I believe that you can make sure that you set a time where you need to be more aware of yourself. So having that awareness about self, and I think also a coachee, while coaching certain leaders or different types of leaders, you would see what are the triggers of the stresses or the pressure, because the more stress or pressure you put your other people's emotions aside, and then you know think of your own emotions. So trying to regulate yourself first helps you to navigate through other people's emotions.
So this is a part of your approach. I mean, I would assume when you're coaching, emotional intelligence is a key factor because critical to leadership, right? But how do you, let's say, if you come across a potential leader who may not have emotional intelligence as one of his strengths, how do you cultivate emotional intelligence?
I think before you cultivate emotional intelligence, you need to understand where that leader is coming from. Okay, understanding as a coach why or what makes this leader less empathetic or less vulnerable towards situations could be the challenges that that leader is going through. I think discussing the that importance with the leader at the same time, and let me tell you, usually when we coach, you need to see that you are coaching somebody who wants to be coached. So I cannot coach somebody
Who's not open to
who's not
receiving?
open to be, you
Yeah.
know, to have more of emotional intelligence.
It's a very interesting
So
point.
if they do not want to, then no matter how many times we will sit and talk, I think what would end up happening is that we're going to go in circles because he doesn't believe in it.
Right.
Now, in contrary, if he's a leader who thinks or believes that, okay, you know what, I'm lacking this side, which is emotional intelligence, and I would like to cultivate more of emotional intelligence. So how can I connect with my employees? Then you go through a coaching session where you understand, because everybody is different and everybody's brain is different. Coaching them through it and with them coming up with the answers. Okay, I feel this is how I can do it, or this is how I see emotional intelligence is, because as well, everybody's perception is different. I mean, emotional intelligence might mean something completely different to me versus you. I mean, the thing that we
It's
do is,
contextual.
yes, and at the same time helping them to reframe it, to understand, okay, this is what you think about it. You know, what are the I think the understandings you have about emotional intelligence.
But you
When
are of the opinion that this could be taught.
Oh, yes, definitely. But given the fact that he wants to as well, you know, any skill, whether they are soft skills or hard skills, everything can be taught because we were born to learn things, or we wouldn't have different languages, different subjects, or, you know, different industries. It depends if you want to. So if I like, let's say, maths, I would be more interested in maths. And if I say, you know what, I hate history, no matter how much you will teach me or how much I believe I'll put time in researching it, I would never learn it. You need to understand that there needs to be some kind of interest. With that interest will come the focus, because you need to focus when you're learning.
Absolutely.
So yes, definitely. But given the fact that your coachee or your leader or the individual knows the importance and wants to. If there is no want and the organization just asks a coach, can you just come in and make this leader become more emotional or has more emotional intelligence, then no, definitely it would never work.
So essentially what it does is not only emotional intelligence, but all the aspects of coaching is a more, let's say, an infusion of behavioral change and perhaps also the shift of mindset. So mindset shifting, right? So when it comes to these two concepts, such as behavioral change and mindset shifts, what are some common challenges currently in your experience that you have come across that your clients face?
So, with mind shifting, I think that the one thing in common that we see in a lot of individuals is the limiting belief of being able to accomplish anything or changing a behavior, or also being able to navigate through their personal or career life. But when we work with certain individuals who are looking for a mind shift, we would go one level deeper, which is your identity. Now, most coaching that I've done, it goes through, I think, three levels, which is your thoughts and emotions, and they go hand in hand because your emotions govern your thoughts and your thoughts govern your emotions. And then with that having in mind, you will have a certain behavior. I will behave depending on what I think or what I felt. And then that behavior would lead into certain actions and results. Now, before I think or before I have that feeling of anything, this comes from a deeper rooted thing, which is my identity. Who am I? Now, if I know who am I, let's say when I'm making certain decisions at work, I can't be a mother there. Okay, I need to be a mother at home. You get what I'm saying?
Of course.
So when you're doing this podcast, your identity shifts and change.
Right.
If you're carrying an identity of somebody who isn't capable of speaking, your action, your emotions and thinking will follow.
Right.
But if I can change that identity first of who am I, it would help me navigate through different challenges. Usually, the book that says what got you here won't get you there. And that's not only with your skills and your experience, but who you are as an individual. Who you are as
So you need to be fluid.
you need to be fluid. As a fresh graduate versus a mid-level manager versus a senior manager and then eventually a leader. A lot of people think that you are carrying or you're trying to reach a goal, but what's happening actually is who are you becoming in this process? If I still have the identity of a fresh graduate and I am probably leading, let's say, a group of employees, it would not work. I need to shift to that. And a lot of people go through imposter syndrome because they sometimes feel that they are still where they were, let's say, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
No matter how much they would go through the training and the teaching and the, let's say, certifications, or they still have that because they are stuck with the old identity. Now, there are techniques within mind shifting where you need to attend to the brain. Now, let me tell you something about the brain. It won't let you be unless you attend to it. It's like when they tell you don't think of a blue elephant or a gray elephant, that's what you'll keep on thinking of.
Correct, yeah.
So when you're going through something, let's say, and you're trying to suppress that feeling, it won't let it go. It won't let you go easily. It would be always at the back of your head.
Right.
So when I do a mind shifting, let's say, coaching session, then what we do is trying to attend to that thought and to attend to those feelings, where there is a technique, of course, behind it. Whether it is mostly it is a negative emotion more than a positive one.
Yeah.
So when you go through that negativity, you need to actually live it. The minute you live that emotion of the worst negative emotion you can go through, that's when your brain will let you go. So, okay, you've attended to me. You've heard me. I've been speaking to you and you're not listening to me. Then you can go inside where the person can actually think. Now, they can think because the emotions are being stabilized, okay? And they can give you the best that they have.
So it's more about a triggering event, and that event needs to be intense enough to trigger the change in you.
See, again, it would depend on how the individual's perception about it. So, what
So the experience of that event has to be
yeah,
intense inside you.
whatever it is, usually, and this is more, I think, is used in life coaching mostly, where people would go through things and would go to a coach and ask them, okay, I need to get over, let's say, a relationship. Now, to do that, you need to feel that pain, for that pain to let you go. And you will part ways because you've attended to that pain. Now, you use this in an organization level when sometimes at the back of the head of any leader is hindering his progress to move forward. And you think, okay, let's see, where is this, what's happening here? And then you use this tool to let them move to the next level. Now, there are ways as well where I did the neuroscience. A coach needs to know where he stops and where a therapist comes in, because we are more solution-based. We focus on moving forward. But then the therapist or the psychologist or the psychiatrist, they work backwards. Your history, what went wrong in your life, and what's hindering you to move forward.
And where are you
They are
anchored?
problem-based. A psychologist is a problem-based questions. What
Right.
made you sad, or your childhood, and then when you come to a coach, is more solution-based, and that's why you get more excited, because you're thinking of all the possibilities that can come with all these questions. You become more excited about it because okay, now I can change, I can do this, and I can do that. So yeah,
It's like when people ask me, what's the difference between accountant and finance? Like, I always have this answer: accountant is retrospect, finance is prospect. And similarly, how you described the difference between coaching and let's say therapy,
yes,
right?
yeah.
So it's interesting
And
to
both
see.
need to, and in both cases, you need to attend to the brain.
Absolutely.
In both cases, you go and speak to a therapist, and people say, you're paying, a lot of money just for somebody to hear you. That is very true, and that tells you why research says that you need to, offload your brain. And with coaching, when you're offloading, you can see things clearly. It's more of a straighter line than all jumbled up in your brain, not knowing, what am I doing? Am I doing this or am I doing that? And how am I supposed to put this all together?
Yeah. You can't move forward if you're anchored into, in your past.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. You also specialize in red teaming methodology.
Yes.
What is red teaming methodology? Run us through the concept.
So with red teaming, as the title suggests, it's about teams and how can you work with teams. So
Is there a reason the red is
the red teaming? Okay, so
why
red
not blue
teaming
team
is
or a purple team, for example? Like in sports days, orange team and
red teaming, okay, comes from, actually it's a very, very old concept that came from the Socrates method of probing questions.
okay.
Okay, in philosophy. So you ask questions to get more answers. And then this was created, if my memory serves me well, it started, the idea of it happened when when Napoleon was actually invading Europe, if I'm not mistaken. And so you have the countries surrounding, Russia, Poland, and, thinking, okay, how can we beat this guy? And so they created the red team and the blue team,
Okay.
putting you in these different situations to see how it work. So it's a war game. I mean, when I was younger, there was this, in my time, there was this game where you had these soldiers and you had the red team soldiers and the blue team.
Yes.
And this is how they beat Napoleon eventually, was trying to see what would his next move be. This was also adapted then by the military and by some of the intelligence in some countries, but mostly Western countries. So there was this
It's like
business
playing
journal-
chess.
It's like playing chess. There was this business journalist who did the red teaming from a military perspective, and he thought how this would actually be very adaptable in the business world. Because when you're in the business world, it's like you are at war. You don't know what will happen next and what changes that can come through and how can you be prepared. So there are different tools that we use. I mean, having as well the clarity that your whole team knows exactly what is the vision of the company and what you're trying to achieve. So making sure that is there. You have the capability of your team that they're capable to go through this, let's say, fight, if we're talking from a war perspective, and at the same time to create the culture of red teaming, which also involves psychological safety. Now, within red teaming, we have a lot of tools, and that would depend on the client's needs. So if it's a decision-making tool that they need, or it is to capture, opportunities, or to stress test plans and strategies, it would depend on what the client needs from a business perspective. And we do that by avoiding groupthink and cultivating it in a psychological safety environment.
I'm coming to that point right away. I mean, you
Okay.
brought it up. I didn't.
Okay.
In a so how important is psychological safety in your field of work? Let's say in coaching, right? How does it? What strategies do you utilize in order to, let's say, foster an environment of psychological safety?
Okay. So let me tell you, there are ways where you.
Because it is a very important concept when it comes to innovation. You
need people to speak up. Now, there's ways where you can sit with leaders to help them create an environment of psychological safety in the organization. And there are other ways and other tools that we use where you force a psychological safety by using softwares and where it goes anonymous and people can speak without feeling that, they are going to be caught by the responses, or their ideas might be too stupid, or they think that they're not good enough.
But they need to be comfortable enough to express it.
Comfortable, but as I said, you can force that by using softwares where somebody says, okay, I can give my feedback, nobody would know it's me. At the same time, you can also eliminate groupthink by using these kind of softwares, okay?
Correct.
And everybody would give in their own opinions without building on to somebody else's opinion. Now, when you work with a leader and you want to create this as a culture, not really as, how do you say it, as a forced or technology way, you need to let that leader become more vulnerable to their own decisions, and encourage that kind of behavior, encourage mistakes, and allow for failure, so people would think, okay, it's fine that I can do a mistake and it won't be held against me.
It's a product of cultural change and behavioral
And
change.
and to become more empathetic, to understand as well. So you could coach leaders and tell them, you know what, you can be vulnerable, because people would end up then following you and your actions, not what you tell them. It's like they say your children won't actually follow what you tell them, but they would follow what you do. And that happens as well in organizations. People follow their leaders' actions more than the leaders, let's say, his rules or the company's policies. It depends how he acts. And so when he's more vulnerable and when he is more open with his direct reports would eventually take this further. It's like a domino effect. And rewarding people when they speak up. Now, when we talk about also eliminating groupthink, it's usually people who are in the lower levels or lower rankings of the organizations would follow whatever the leader or their seniors say.
Correct.
And so if your boss says this is how we should
You come
do
up
it
with-
within a meeting, then everybody will build up on the same thought
Right.
as him.
You become agreeable to
Everybody's
to that,
agreeable. So, as Simon Sinek says, that the leader needs to speak last. Listen to everybody else first, and you get a chance. And not necessarily that you have to always do it within a group. A lot of successful leaders, and I've coached CEOs, who say that they work individually with different levels within the organization. And not because they don't trust their direct reports. And I like this, one of the CEOs mentioned this while I was coaching him. And he's like, it's not that I don't trust, but I would like to verify. So you trust your team, but you verify. And that's how you make sure that everything is working as per the organization's vision or mission or objectives and goals and where you want to head.
and ensuring that everything is
Yeah.
aligned.
So yeah, as I said, there are two ways of doing it. There's the human way, and then now with technology, there's a way
do that.
you actually let people speak up without being threatened. But the difference is that if you allow it in a more natural way, people become more creative. People will come up with better ideas. People will be more innovative because they're thinking with excitement more than being forced about it,
I
and
had
will
that
think more
word in
out
my
of the
mind.
box. Yes.
You spoke my mind.
Yeah.
Now, this is amazing. You just spoke about an example with the CEO you worked with, and then we also spoke about the challenges, perhaps from a psychologically safe environment. Now, having worked across a spectrum of, let's say, entities, regions, individuals, and continents from a geographical perspective as well, what are some of the recurring themes or challenges that you see that leaders in different regions or different parts of the world share when it comes to adapting the change? Are there common denominators, or is it a very culturally driven phenomena?
What I've noticed is the most thing that a lot of leaders go through is leading through uncertain times. There's a lot of changes happening. And for a leader to go through and lead people through uncertainty is the biggest challenge every leader goes through, whether it is different types of industries or different type of regions, different type of countries. This is the one common denominator that you see with every leader, is trying to lead in uncertain times, and at the same time, every leader has challenge with with culture within the organization.
So
Even though, because you might inherit a culture that you don't like, and a lot of leaders go through that
Correct.
and believe I need to bring my own people. You know, you'd see a lot of CEOs would come into a new organization, thinks, oh, I need to bring in my people in.
Right.
Because you're trying to either set the tone, you trust these people. And that's why I think psychological safety is very, very important, because it's not about moving people from a location. It's shifting that mindset of people who are there already.
Correct. Which is a harder task than, bringing your own luggage with you, for example.
I think what that does, if it's not there to help the current employees or to educate them, it actually creates a bigger shift. Because the people who are there feel that, okay, we're not from the same circle. So you're not bringing people together. You're more actually setting them apart.
Yeah, segregation.
Exactly.
Fostering something that you unintended. Now, but would you say that the challenges are common, or there are different set of challenges when it comes to regional, which is it geographically influenced, or boundaries are not an issue when it comes to the challenges leaders face?
I don't think so. I mean, living in a VUCA world now, you know, everything is, we're connected. It's hyper connectivity.
So challenges are global as well.
Yeah, we're living like in one big country. At the end of the day, our interests might be different, but our challenges are the same. We are leading people through growth, or it's sometimes some people might have to lose businesses because they don't know how to navigate through this. But every business, the main goal is that I want to grow my business. Now, it's how educated your leader is. Does he realize it's about the people? Some leaders think it's about the numbers. We had a very interesting discussion this morning, and it was about how coaching is perceived in every country. Okay, and then in the Western world, a lot of coaching comes from they understand that you need the employees to have more well-being, and
Right.
that they can
So
produce
there's a value
more.
attached to it.
Yeah, and then you have the Eastern part where they think that I need coaching to drive my numbers. I mean, both have the need to drive numbers, but I think the understanding of the benefit of coaching is more still in the West, and that's why there's more coaching. I mean, now within the Middle East, let's say, now this topic of coaching is becoming, this more awareness.
Yeah.
People are not only using it in businesses, but there's a lot of people who are going to life coaches to help them navigate their own lives.
Right, especially
And
post-COVID, that has taken a mainstream stage. Yeah.
Exactly, where they had time to actually see different things and what's happening in the world, and how can I develop myself, and how can I go through different challenges in life, whether it's career or it's personal. It was the time where we all had to sit back and reflect on life. But then after you reflect, you go, what's next?
Especially in
How
lockdowns.
can I?
When you're locked in a room, you don't know what to do.
Exactly. So then what do I do next? How can I move forward? And I think this is where people started thinking, I need help. I can't do this on my own. And that's when people think, okay, I need to have a coach, or I need to have a mentor. I think mostly within this region, we have a lot of mentors.
Right.
And maybe teachers, trainers,
But few
consultants,
coaches.
more than coaches. I think what we need to do is create more awareness, because some people see it more of, it's something luxury to have. They don't see it as a necessity. Something that you need in order to grow or become obsolete. And you want the buy-in of everybody within the organization. And creating a coaching culture is not necessarily bringing an external coach. When you have that awareness, your leaders or your senior management, senior executives can hold the role of a coach. It's just asking the right questions. You don't need to be certified to be able to coach your employees. You want them to do their best. You want them to make sure that they meet their targets and grow personally and grow the company as well. So there are ways where I believe that the region can start cultivating a culture that is sustainable, which is coaching, and not really have the need to bring somebody else. Now, you will bring an external coach first to see what would work best for your company. With that session, you will know what your company needs and how best and which approach that would help you move forward. As I said, with coaching, you cannot push a decision or think that you can tell somebody what to do. It needs to come from within. And no organization, no one would know you more than yourself. Our job is to help you know yourself better. Yes, find yourself, empower you, right. And see what are your strengths. And there are different tools. I mean, even within coaching, every tool is different. So you have the brain-based coaching. You have, let's say, the Maxwell coaching that I've done. You have the Red Team coaching. There's different types of coaching depending on that situation. The minute you know where you're at, it's easier. So if you have the right question, you're half there. You have the solution already.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, that's wonderful. You're also an advocate of women empowerment and women in leadership, and you're a passionate advocate, actively that I know of as well, of gender equity, and even representing, I believe, G100 mission in Oman. So first, run us through what is this G100 mission, and how does it cater to your advocacy and passion towards women empowerment and leadership?
I like when you said gender equity, because we have still people saying gender equality. which can't be the same. I mean, there's a lot of differences, and everybody has brings something unique to the table. And a lot of successful women nowadays are supported by their other halves, or their brothers or their fathers. A lot of women who had the support of men, and so it's nice that you said that, because
Now it's good you mentioned that. I mean, run us through the difference between equity and equality. I think since you're thinking from that angle as well.
Well, I think a lot of people now, when they talk about equality, they think that women need to be equal to men, which isn't the case. And I won't say that only from a physical perspective, but as well from an emotional or from a psychological perspective. I mean, the way we even view ourselves as male and females, you are there to complement each other, and that's where equity comes in. You need the other half to complement you, and we are there to complement each other. So when you have a child, they need both parents. Research has shown that sometimes some kids who have one parent face more traumas and challenges because they aren't able to understand the different perspective of the other gender, let's say. And especially in this region, when people come across equality, it doesn't really work well with us because it's not about me being equal to a man. It's about me supporting the man and vice versa. When G100 came to me as an idea, and it's G100 Mission Million, where it caters to like 100 different industries or domains within a country. Okay, and each country has different. Let's say you have the media, you have the oneness and wisdom, you have the health, you have the education.
Right.
And each country chair of these different domains has to kind of recruit 100, bringing it all to 1 million. Now, this brings all these women together where we share best practices, where we share the challenges that we go through, where we empower each other as women. Because, having women for the longest time at the back seat and not really having a lot of representation in the boardrooms
Correct.
gives women that how do you say it? You feel less experienced, and as well that women have less exposure to mentors because we did not have a chance to be there. So we don't have a woman mentoring us to
Is
go
that a
through it.
regional issue or is it a global?
No, it is a global issue. It's definitely a global issue because if you notice how many women presidents are there in the whole world. So it's and with CEOs and with boardrooms. And when you create that, these women become mentors to other women
Right.
who are going through similar things and through similar challenges, because not only you are trying to make it in your career or the business world, but at the same time you are taking care of your family. We were created this way. It's not that childbearing is from a woman. It's not that I would say, you know what, I need gender equality and I need a man to give birth. So these are some things that were created naturally. And women do need other women to support them in different industries. As I said, G100 has different industries. At the same time,
So G100 is like a cohort of women who empower other women.
other women, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Interesting. Now, what would you say from given from your experience and the field of work and coaching when it comes to leadership, the challenges are gender neutral, or there are different set of challenges for men and different set of challenges that women face?
Definitely different. There are things that are common within. When you're driving a company, at the end of the day, your stakeholders want results. That's what's in common. Now, when it comes to personal challenges as a woman to lead and as a man to lead, they need different type of support. Do they need each other? Yes, because they see things from a different perspective and they bring different things to the table. Women go through imposter syndrome more than men. They
Interesting.
always question their ability and try to have that straight, let's say, face in meetings and try not to let their emotions govern the situation. There are very good women out there who've managed to run very successful businesses. That doesn't mean that they did it by themselves. They do have mentors. They do have coaches. They do have a support system. A lot of women who are mothers and who do well do have a support system at home, whether it is their husband or their family or a group of very close friends that could take over when she is not around.
But here's a question I have. I mean, when we talk about support systems, right? I mean, do men require support systems as much as in this context, or are we looking at, let's say, men dealing with the challenges in a different manner, and maybe they're less reliant on the external support system and more on the internal on themselves, for example? So what's the comparison and contrast between the two, or if is there any?
See, men also require support. And a lot of men probably seek coaching a lot from a business perspective. But there was something very interesting I've learned, that the reason people come for coaching is not the reason why people come for coaching. So after you coach, you realize there's other underlying issues or things that leaders might go through, and it could be personal. It could be
so
family.
what emerges out of it?
Yes, and it could be family. And I think with time now that men and women are both in the workforce, so a woman is waiting for a man to do the same. So if she is not around and he's not around, he might also feel that he needs the support. It's not only a decision that she needs to make, but it's a decision that they both need to make in order to support a family. If the mother is not around, then the father needs to come back at a certain time,
Right.
if you know what I mean, and take care of the children.
The kids, yeah.
At the same time, I think they are good at bottling those emotions. That does not mean that they don't require them, but when you go through the coaching sessions, you start realizing that men have needs and are vulnerable, that they were taught, and they realize that, especially in our culture.
Yeah, so it's more culturally conditioned to it conditions you on how to react to it.
And being, I think, a CEO where you need to be strong for everybody, you need to be resilient. But at the same time, to create that resilience, you need to have a safety net where you fall back to, whether that safety net is religion, whether that safety net is your spiritual. You need something bigger than you to feel that you could fall back to. Because at the end of the day, you need, when I coach and when I do mind shifting, and not the brain-based coaching, which is science-based, and you talk to people, if you're talking to somebody who's religious, then you'd say, okay, that you're open and you put your faith on the strongest thing, which is God, Allah in our case. But then now when somebody is not religious and you are coaching somebody who does not have a religious background, you will have to ask them to rely on, say, the universe. Some people say, I believe in the universe. Something that you can fall back to, which is, that's why they do positive psychology. When you fall, it's not a hard fall. You need to be able to fall and bounce back up.
Right. It's like a trampoline.
That is very much needed, or you'll fall and you won't be able to stand up. They needs to be something bigger than that. Faith.
And that becomes your trampoline then.
And a lot of people follow whatever faith or belief that would help them go through it, or a strong reason. My children, my mother, my background, something that could, let's say, trigger or push or encourage and motivate you to move forward.
Interesting. So here we're very close to wrapping up, but a couple of last, let's say, pointers is that what would be your advice for aspiring leaders and coaches?
I think the most important thing is, we are in this world where we're not alone. When you're running a business, you're not running a business. People are running this business. So it's all about people. My advice is learning to connect with others in order to create. People would tell you need to be adaptable, you need to be resilient, you need to be agile, which is fair enough. And we had all these hypes with agility and training about agility, and now coaching or whatever they hype with a new buzzword.
Right.
I think what's important is they need to know that this is not done alone. I can be the most adaptable and resilient and everything, but I'm not doing this by myself. I'm doing it with a group of people, and that's how the whole world comes together. We need to connect with each other. We can learn to be more empathetic. We can learn to be more emotional, intelligent, or we can learn to be more adaptable. But who am I adapting to, and what, and whom? The new generation is coming up. If I connect to the new generation and still understand the older generation and still understand as well the opposite gender, it unites us.
You
It
become a
brings us,
bridge.
and that's how we can move forward. A lot of leaders have failed, not because they're not good enough, not because their strategies weren't good enough, not because they were not strong enough. I think what made them fail is they did not know how to connect, understand, and appreciate different perspectives.
Wonderful. Last 60 seconds. What is Raida's mission moving forward?
Wow. It's a 60-second. I think when I thought of Taghyeer, it was about empowering people to change and to see change as a learning opportunity and not as a challenge. So the faster you're able to change, and I help you to do that, it's something that I feel I would like to do, and that's why I continue to learn myself to help others and empower people to succeed.
Thank you very much. With that, we come to a close, and I learned a good lesson, especially towards the end when you said challenges are opportunities, and not necessarily how many interpret the challenges are problems that need to be solved.
Exactly.
So thank you very much, Raida, for being on HassanSpeaks.
Thank
on
you
my
very
show.
much, Hassan.
And it has been an honor hosting you.
Same here.
And I look forward to further interactions as well. Great. I hope you enjoyed this talk of today, and I hope it resonates with many of you out there, and it was helpful, and that it continues to enlighten your way forward. With that, thank you very much, and see you in the next episode.